The Dobbs case itself, what is it purporting to do in relationship to Roe and Casey? What is, in the simplest terms, what's going to change, or how could this play out? Yeah.
Sure. So the case the Supreme Court just heard oral arguments in early December is Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization. And so this is based on a law, the Gestational Age Act out of Mississippi, that bans abortion after 15 weeks. So there's before, again, as we were talking about, Jonathan, that 24-week line that the Supreme Court had set. So that's really right there is where I think it hits the intersection with Roe and Casey the most. In fact, when the Supreme Court granted what's called cert, or the writ of certiorari, in the case, they said that we will consider one question, and that is the question of, are all pre-viability abortion bans unconstitutional? So really, this goes right to the heart of Casey, supported by Roe. And so the court's going to have to answer that question. They could answer more questions. They could consider other items, but we suspect we will get at least an answer from that question. And if that question is no, that not all pre-viability abortion bans are unconstitutional, that opens up opportunities for pro-life laws like Mississippi's, like laws that exist in Missouri and in many other states that would address questions of when unborn child feels pain, different other such limits as well that recognize the dignity of the unborn child. So, I think we don't know what the court will say. I think, there are probably three different areas it could fall into, which means it'll probably end up falling into a fourth. But I think one area is the court could come back and say, the status quo. We're going to maintain things where they are. We took this case because we wanted to be clear about the value of a precedent, and we don't think that overturning this case that value has been met. That would not be the most pro-life decision for us, for those seeking more pro-life laws. I think the second is somewhere in the middle, more of a middle ground. Do they come up with a new test, or do they better clarify what an undue burden means? That would give states the opportunity to say, well, there are some laws that we think are important, some pro-life laws, some laws that will support maternal health that we want to pass and may pass muster with the court. And then, of course, the third bucket is the one I think we hear a lot more about. And that's this idea of overturning Roe or Casey or gutting Roe or Casey, as some have said. And really what that would mean is to say this, to your point, Jonathan, this viability standard doesn't work. We're going to throw it out. States have a right to go in and to regulate the medical profession. That's a long-held position of the court and of jurisprudence. Abortion is a medical procedure, and the states have a right to go in and regulate on it. That this super right that exists somewhere in the 14th Amendment is not sacrosanct. It's not there. But what that doesn't mean is that the day after the Dobbs decision, that abortion would be legal throughout the land or illegal throughout the land or something like that. What it would mean is each state would then have to consider what they're going to do, most likely. And so states that have very permissive abortion laws would continue to stand. States that have more pro-life laws or laws on the books that were never allowed to take effect because of Dobbs, because of Roe, because of Casey, those might be able to go into effect or to start that process. So it is not it would be a big moment, but it would also be a big moment to consider that there's more work to do. There's more work to do in states that have not recognized the dignity of an unborn child and the culture of life. And there's also work to do to accompany women and their children, as Knights have done for decades, and that we should do as a community as well.
I imagine over the next 6 months, there's going to be a lot of chatter about this. And as chatter is in the modern world, it can be very confusing, and it's coming from different sides in that. So what are we doing as the Knights? And I know you're up to something. I just want you to share about it in order to keep the brothers informed, in order to help them inform others. And what resources are we producing?
Sure. Well, I think what you're referring to, Jonathan, of course, is our new Faithful Citizenship program, which Brother Knights can go online and sign up for. And what this is it's an opportunity to learn a little bit more about what's happening in Washington, what's happening, in this particular time, right, of course, in the courts as well. This is something Brother Knights have asked for. We know they're interested in. We know that is something that can be helpful because there is a lot of noise out there, on all sides of the aisle, in all areas of the spectrum. And what we want to do is provide some no-nonsense, straightforward information. And why is that? Because I can't, anywhere I go, even when people don't know what I do for a living, there's a question of, what do you think about this in the news or this issue? And the more we can help our brother knights have the information at the water cooler, at the dinner table, at the back of Mass, to have that type of knowledge is I think, an important thing that we can do.